gold. The word itself glitters with promise, fortune, and often, danger. It drove empires, fueled rushes across continents, and lured hopeful souls into the harshest landscapes on Earth. In the rugged terrain of Victoria, Australia, during the late 1870s, the gold fever still burned hot. Men ventured deep into unforgiving bushland, chasing whispers of color in the rock, enduring hardship for the dream of a life-changing strike. And for one small, unnamed group of prospectors around 1877, that dream seemed to explode into reality, before vanishing into a chilling mystery. Imagine the scene. A secluded gully, far from established claims, sunlight glinting off something in the creek bed. Not just a few specks, but veins of gold running thick and rich through the quartz. According to the fragmented accounts that survived, this wasn't just a strike, it was the strike. The kind miners whispered about in hushed tones around campfires, the legendary motherlode. They described it, in excited, secretive messages relayed back through intermediaries, as the richest deposit any of them had ever laid eyes on, potentially eclipsing the known fields. Word in the gold fields traveled strangely, a mix of rumor, boasting, and deliberate misinformation. But the whispers about this particular discovery, despite the group's attempts at secrecy, eventually gained traction. A palpable buzz grew around the possibility of a new, incredibly wealthy field opening up. Naturally, others wanted in. Driven by envy and the relentless hope of striking it rich themselves, a second party of prospectors, perhaps months later, set out to locate this rumored El Dorado. They followed the vague directions, navigating the dense Victorian bush. Anticipation likely ran high as they neared the supposed location. They expected to find a bustling, perhaps jealously guarded, new mining camp. Instead, they found silence. An eerie, unnatural quiet that hung heavy in the air. As they entered the clearing where the camp should have been, a sense of profound unease must have washed over them. The site wasn't just empty, it was disturbed. Tools lay scattered haphazardly, as if dropped mid-task. Personal belongings, tin plates, worn boots, perhaps a pipe or a tattered book, were strewn about, suggesting a sudden interruption or a frantic departure. Cold fire pits held days-old ashes. But the most alarming discovery was the state of the shelters. Canvas tents, the prospectors' humble homes, weren't neatly packed or simply abandoned. They were burned. Reduced to scorched fabric clinging to charred poles. It spoke not of an orderly move, but of chaos, destruction, or perhaps a desperate attempt to erase something. And then, the most baffling discovery of all. There was no gold. Absolutely none. No sacks of ore waiting for transport, no nuggets hidden away, not even the telltale signs of recent digging or processing at the scale suggested by the initial reports. The rich strike, the very reason for the camp's existence, seemed to have vanished along with the men. It was as if the earth had yielded its treasure, only to swallow it back whole, taking the miners with it. No bodies were found. No signs of a struggle, no graves hastily dug. No tracks leading away suggesting a planned departure or a pursuit. The original group of prospectors had simply ceased to exist. They were swallowed by the bush, leaving behind only scorched canvas and unsettling questions. What could have happened? Bushrangers were a threat, but they typically stole gold and valuables, perhaps killing witnesses, but rarely obliterating an entire camp and leaving no trace of the loot or the victims. Internal conflict, a deadly dispute over the massive find. Possible, but where were the bodies, the weapons? And why destroy the evidence of the wealth they fought over? A sudden, localized natural disaster. A flash flood might explain scattered belongings, but not specifically burned tents and the complete absence of the reported gold. The authorities were eventually notified. Investigations were likely hampered by the remoteness and the lack of evidence. Whatever official inquiries were made yielded no answers, or perhaps, answers that were deemed too sensitive for public knowledge. Because this is where the mystery takes another strange turn. Official documentation regarding this specific site, this vanished camp and its rumored riches, became notoriously difficult to access. Reports were filed, then seemingly buried. Over time, the location itself, this small patch of Victorian wilderness that briefly promised unimaginable wealth, fell under a shroud of governmental secrecy. Maps were altered, or access restricted. Today, the area containing the supposed location of the vanished camp is often marked as a protected reserve, a conservation zone, effectively off-limits to casual exploration or modern prospecting. Why? Was it merely bureaucratic tidiness, protecting a sensitive ecological area? Or was the restriction rooted in the unsettling events of 1877? Was there something in that soil, something connected to the disappearance, that authorities wanted left undisturbed? Did they find something during their initial investigation, evidence of inexplicable violence, an unknown contagion, or something stranger still, that warranted sealing the area off indefinitely? The fate of the prospectors remains unknown. The staggering wealth they claimed to have found was never recovered. The land holds its secrets tightly. All that remains is the chilling tableau discovered by those later arrivals. An empty camp, personal lives scattered like dust, the spectral imprint of burned tents against the wilderness, and the deafening silence where a fortune in gold once supposedly lay. A silent testament to a dream that turned into an enduring, classified nightmare.